Namaskar. In this episode of Dil Se, we'll talk about what's happening in the conflict between the US and Iran. On February 25, 26, our Prime Minister went to Israel, and within 48 hours of that visit, America attacked Iran. And we don't know why he went there at this point in time, because the last visit was in 2017. And I'm sure that when he went there, Netanyahu must have told him about the attack, and if he didn't, then less said about the great friendship between India and Netanyahu. But we'll move beyond that, because we don't know what's really happening, because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's flying around. We don't know what the extent of the casualties are. We don't know how Iran is responding, in what manner it has broken the air dome of Israel. Those issues we'll not talk about. But we'll talk about what impact it has on India. Because as far as India is concerned, we are highly dependent on the import of crude oil. We import 80% of our crude oil, and 20% of the global oil goes through the Straits of Hormuz. And the Iranians have said that other than Chinese flag ships, they will not allow any other ship to go through the Straits of Hormuz. So that impacts the global community. It impacts the global economy. The price of crude has already gone up to 79. Petrol is selling at 95 in some places in India, at over 100 in other places in India. It has huge impact. The other thing is that our project of the Chabahar Port has gone for a 6. We've already invested about $122 million there. That's not going to go forward. Our access to Afghanistan, because we can't go through Pakistan territory, to Afghanistan and to the Central Asian republics, that also has gone for a toss. And we don't know what the outcome of this war is going to be. It may last for very long. The price of crude may go up to 100 and 120. That impacts our economy big time. And apart from that, what are we going to do as far as the Americans are concerned? We've not, in a sense, our Prime Minister has not publicly stated that he is, in a sense, supporting the Americans in this war, despite the fact that we have huge civilizational links for thousands of years with the Iranians. And when the British were in power, our border was contiguous to Iran at that point in time. And so there are very many things that we need to talk about as to the implications of all this as far as India is concerned, both politically and its economy. But there is one other issue that I want to raise, and I will seek my guests today, experts in the field, to comment on it, that we have a relationship with the United States, and we entered in 2016 to the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, which allows mutual access to facilities for refueling and logistics between India and the US Armed Forces, including Navy. Now, as you know, Iran attacked American bases in the Middle East, whether it was in Qatar or in Bahrain or in Saudi, and therefore, in a sense, destroyed access to the Americans to those bases for the purposes of attacking Iran. Now, they may want to use the logistics agreement to use India. If that happens, then we'll directly or indirectly be involved in the war. And that's a very serious issue, so we'll have a discussion on some of these issues. So I want to introduce my guest today. Vivek, you've been here so often, and thank you very much, because you've been a tremendous support to us because of your enormous depth of knowledge as far as this area is concerned. You've been in Abu Dhabi, in Cairo, in Washington, in Kuala Lumpur. You've been ambassador to Myanmar, Afghanistan. You've been JS Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Secretary West. And so you've got enormous experience. You retired in 2011, and every time I open a newspaper and read your article, I sort of learn a lot from it. So thank you very much for being here. Navtej, you, on the other hand, have been both our ambassador to Washington, to America, as well as High Commissioner to the UK. You've been our ambassador to Israel in 2008 to 12, and you've been Secretary West 2014 to 16. And after 38 years, you've retired. And you've got great knowledge of this area and the politics of this area. So apart from the fact that you're a great novelist, you've written so many books, both fiction and non-fiction. Thank you very much for being here. Brahma, you were the strategic thinker here, public intellectual, involved with international security issues, geopolitics, resource diplomacy, and you've got part of the NSAB, member of the NSAB. You got fellowships all over the world. Your articles are written in the New York Times, published in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Guardian, Japan Times, CNN, BBC. You're often on those programs. So thank you very much for being here. I'll start with you, Vivek. What's going to happen?
I think it's very difficult to predict, but a couple of things I wanted to say as preliminary points. The first is that I see at the moment the real issue in the world is the American desire to bring about a return to colonialism. If you see Marco Rubio's speech in Munich, it's a blatant defense of the expansion of the West in our parts of the world, and he says they should have no guilt and shame. And what is that? I mean, that's colonialism. We've seen two practical manifestations of it. First was in Venezuela in January, and then it's this.
Yes.
It's really unheard of.
And Greenland now.
Yeah, and it's really unheard of that you have a decapitation strike. You just, without a formal declaration of war, you knock off the entire leadership, the supreme leader of a country, howsoever you may hate him, etc. So I see this as part of that project, and that is why I've argued that if nothing else, we should have taken this into account and expressed right at the beginning some regret, if nothing else, for this American-Israeli action, notwithstanding our close ties, etc. With friends or with people you have a contiguity of interests, it doesn't mean you have to agree to everything. The second point, Kapil, everyone talks of regime change. They are not going after regime change. It's a systems change that they're going after. The difficulty is that when you have a systems change, you need someone to occupy the vacuum. If you destroy the system, someone to occupy the vacuum that will be created. There's no such thing in the offing because there's no one to take the place of this system. After all, in 79, when the Shah left, you had Khomeini who could come in and he established his own system, which was the Vilayat-e-Faqih. So what we are looking at, the prospect we are looking at, is system collapse. And if the Americans are now playing with the minorities, the ethnic minorities, then they're playing with fire. Because if the system collapses and it breaks up, the Iranian Shia core has never broken up over the last many hundred years. If this breaks up, then you'll have all kinds of trouble in the region.
Yes.
And we will be
and India will also be in trouble.
We will be directly impacted.
Sizable Shia community.
No, apart from that, the Gulf will be in flames, will be completely unsettled. Where will the refugees go?
Right.
They'll go across the waters, they'll destabilize the Gulf altogether. So this region will be in great trouble and be a part of the region. So if you think this through from India's viewpoint, this is a very dangerous moment. And now the Prime Minister is saying peace, diplomacy, etc. And that the first statement was also wishy-washy. But somehow or the other, that statement gave the impression, the perception, that India has decided to be on one side of the
That's clear, that's clear.
And that was, I think, really not desirable.
But let's go back a little to what the Israelis are saying. They are saying for us, it's a matter of our existence. This is what they've been saying. That look, these people were going to make the bomb and they increased their stockpile of enriched uranium and we destroyed their plant in June when the attack placed and the Americans attacked them. But they said, look, we need to get rid of Iran. We need to control Iran and destroy their nuclear facilities because otherwise we are in danger.
If I was a strategic sort of thinker, which I'm obviously not, but in Israel, I would want a black hole in Iran that would serve my interests. I would not be bothered about the consequences of that black hole on the region because it would not impact me. It would not impact Israel. No refugees will be streaming into Israel. Europe, yes, at a pinch. The Gulf, yes. Turkey, I can imagine. Pakistan. So you are on the, I dare say, this is a moment pregnant with all kinds of possibilities. And God forbid, if it is not contained soon, it can have major implications for us.
Let me come to you, Navtej. There was a deal with the Iranians in 2015. And in 2018, Trump just rejected it, and for no reason. And I believe, and I may be wrong, in 2025, actually, Iran told them that we'll never, ever make a bomb. This is what I'm told, that their meetings took place in Muscat. The Americans were sitting in one room, and the Iranians are sitting in the other room, and this language was debated for a while, and the Iranians ultimately agreed, and then Trump said, we reject. This is what I'm told.
I'd come to that, but I think if I may just
Please
substantiate or reinforce what Vivek has just said, all 3 points. I absolutely agree about this. This is imperialism revisited. Mm-hmm. And actually, I did an analysis of the Rubio speech last week, and today I thought maybe I'd stepped out a bit too much, but when I heard Lindsey Graham frame it as a crusade.
I see.
So it's not just colonialism, it is civilizational colonialism.
Oh.
Rubio makes it very clear that we are a superior civilization, and these unwashed masses, so I think that is a very good framing for what's happening. And we must realize that this American approach is not a rational American approach, that they are our strategic partners, so we must behave in a certain way and they will behave in a certain way. This is now a thing that is out of control. It's a kind of messianic approach.
Europe doesn't seem to be part of it, though.
Europe is very reluctant.
Yes.
Europe is broken up, what they're doing. Even the UK has dragged its feet, which is saying a lot.
Correct.
The second issue of objectives of regime change. I think the Israelis had a very clear objective. This is an opportunity for Netanyahu himself to save his skin, his accountability, from getting a chance possibly to change the constitution of Israel, to survive, firstly. And then he finally sees an American president who is willing to go with him. And that's how it happened 8 months ago. And that's how he's gone now. They have no plan for the day after. And they don't care. Exactly right. The worst and the most likely day after is exactly ethnic strife.
Right.
And now they're putting the Kurds trying to go in. Tomorrow they will ask the Azeris. There has been a bombing of Azerbaijan, which the Iranians have denied at a high level. Right. I think Deputy Foreign Minister the military head has denied. So they are saying it's sabotage by Israel.
20% of Turkish population is also Kurds, I believe.
So Turkey has another Kurdish problem. So that's another complication. And the third point, which you mentioned about Trump's JCPOA withdrawal, the Israelis had convinced him that the Obama deal was not a good deal.
Okay.
Because it covered at best the nuclear issue, and that also not to the extent that they would have liked. It reduced the enrichment, it increased the verifications.
3.67%, beyond that they couldn't go.
Yeah, I think it was, I forget the exact figure, but it was 60 or something like that, which they could go to. But they were saying they could go to 60, and from 60 to 90 odd, they can go pretty fast. But Trump at that time just decided to leave it. The Europeans didn't leave it. But Trump decided to leave it, and again it was to A, agree with Israel, and B, to spite what Obama did. So I think that was a moment which has set up a lot of stuff that we have seen that has followed. Even now, these last negotiations, very most unusual for an Omani foreign minister to actually go onto television. They are very quiet mediators and they don't like to come out. But he actually, as a last-ditch effort, went onto television and said, we have a deal.
Yes, that's what I thought.
He said, we have a deal,
Yes.
and they have agreed to zero stockpiling.
That's correct.
Which means if they have zero stockpiling, even if they are enriching to a certain level, they cannot certainly upgrade the enrichment and start making a bomb. So again, Netanyahu did not want a deal to happen.
That's right.
He made 7 trips to Washington. He did not want this because, again, Trump is also...
Well, what's his objective? When you've been to Israel, you're the ambassador there. Does he have public support? What's his objective?
He has, for the last 40 years, talked about the existential threat of Iran to Israel. It is the biggest hawa, as we say. Yes, Iran has been a strong supporter of the Palestinian cause. Iran has been funding militia groups, Palestinian Jihadi group, Hamas, Hezbollah. There has been a deep hostility between Iran and Israel since 1979. And they don't even call Israel a state, they say the Zionist entity. So the Zionist entity occupying Palestinian land. This is a plank of Iranian foreign policy.
Right.
But so if Israel was to able to completely decimate Iran or create a black hole there, they are then the unchallenged military power in the entire Middle East.
Right.
The only country today which has the ability to do this is Iran.
Correct.
So if it breaks up into 5 countries, or if there are militia groups which the Americans and the Gulfies can handle, it's not their problem. So this is where we are.
Yeah, but tell me, the existential threat, and that's my view, and you may not agree with it, I think it's Iran that faces that existential threat instead of Israel. Because this started way back in 1953, if you remember. Mossadegh was the prime minister. There was the Iranian, Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which then became BP. He nationalized it, and after he nationalized it, they engineered the coup and brought Risha in. So they were wanting to control. They want to annihilate because that's the only opposition in the Middle East to the concept of Israel. And the crisis, I think, existential is really, it's Iran's problem.
In a way, you're underlining one fact, which is that history is repeating itself. In 1953, the CIA engineered a regime change that led ultimately to the Islamic Revolution.
Right.
And now, again, they are back to regime change business. But if you go back to Israel's fixations, it was first with Saddam Hussein in Iraq as a potent threat. They got the Americans to intervene. George W. Bush became a disaster, the long occupation. Then Iran became the focus of Israel. And if Trump succeeds in his Iran mission, installs a pliable regime in Tehran, Turkey will become Israel's next Iran.
I see.
So you see, their drive is unchallenged supremacy in the entire region. In India, we tend to forget that Israel does not border Iran. Yes. It has created these benign buffers between itself and Iran. Jordan, Syria, Iraq, these are not states that threaten Israel anymore, right? They have either very friendly governments or like Syria, it's a jihadist regime that to some extent is compliant, complies with Israel's wishes. But Iran is India's neighbor.
Right.
If you look at the map, geographically, Iran is closer to India than it is to Israel.
When British India were there, our borders were together.
Yes, but many in India tend to place Iran in Middle East, tend to forget that it's just the way that, for example, when Prime Minister Modi took office, first time in 2014, he invited regional leaders from everywhere, including from Mauritius and all, distant Mauritius, but he forgot that Myanmar is India's neighbor. Similarly, we forget that Iran is our neighbor. Our the territorial waters of Iran and India, they're very close by. They're close to each other. But I think taking off from what Vivek and Navtej said, the real issue is this, and I think it's not. There are three parties in this: Israel and U.S. waging war against Iran. But this war's outcome will shape our future, this world's future. The reason why I say that, because in modern world history, there's no parallel of one national leader upending the international order, casting aside international norms, international rules, and trashing international law, weaponizing trade, resorting to military force so often as Trump has done.
Right.
In the last 12 months alone, he has carried out military strikes in 7 countries and 2 regions, the Caribbean and the Pacific. He has turned disruption into his governing doctrine, into his governing philosophy. Imagine if he succeeds in Iran. He succeeds in Iran. Of course, he's been emboldened by his success in Venezuela,
Yes.
in abducting a sitting president. He's also quite emboldened by the fact that he's choking Cuba, deepening the humanitarian crisis there through a blockade.
Yes.
The world is watching silently, doing nothing about it. Not even India has sent any food assistance to Cuba.
Right.
And now he has set his sights on installing a pliable regime in Tehran. Imagine a scenario where he succeeds. What will that do to the world? First, it'll create a Trump more prone to employing military force. Right. As it is, he has used tariffs and coercion against all countries, allies and adversaries alike. But there's no parallel in modern world history. The last time there was such a monster leader, if I could put it, it was Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
But Hitler was a threat to Europe. Right. But Trump's actions have had a global impact. This is not to compare Trump with Hitler. No. I'm talking about the impacts. Right. The impact of Hitler was mostly in Europe, while Trump's actions are global in nature. And Navtej and Vivek are right that what we're seeing is a new imperial yearning, which has been outlined both by Trump in his Davos address. He spoke about Western empires, and he talked about their greatness, and Rubio then followed up by talking about the unfortunate demise of those big empires, colonial empires, imperial. So this new imperial yearning that has been publicly outlined, a racial hierarchy, which is also reflected in Trump's domestic policies. This is something was unthinkable until, let's say, a year ago. Yes. That he would actually turn racial hierarchy and racial stereotyping, for example, the way he painted the Obamas as apes, in circulating that imagery.
That's correct.
It's the racial colonial stereotype that he has sought to regurgitate. But there are serious implications for our world, for our future, for the future of our children. What kind of world are we heading to? And this will be determined very much by what happens in the Iran war and in the remainder of Trump's term in office. So let's be clear, this is not about just Iran. It's about India's future, it's the globe, the trajectory of the world. It's about a world where there are certain norms and rules, a world where abducting a sitting president, blockading a country and making its population starve, or decapitating the leadership of a country, including its supreme leader, these are all being normalized in international relations. Now, if these precedents are normalized really, and other countries go down that path, imagine the kind of world we'll be living in.
Let me ask you this, Vivek. I think that you've been extremely eloquent in the consequences that might visit us. But why is our Prime Minister quiet? Surely the mandarins in South Bloc would be telling him of this doomsday scenario. Why is our government quiet, and why is the Prime Minister quiet?
I can only speculate, but I've been thinking a lot about this. Why are you quiet? And I can only speculate that people are telling him that Iran is written off for the next 15 to 20 years. Mm-hmm. The battering it is receiving will ensure this. Now, on the other hand, India has enormous interests in the in the Gulf states, Arab Gulf states, and that these interests will remain. And therefore, at this time, our interests demand that we give primacy to those actors in this conflict instead of Iran. Now, my issue is that even if this is the analysis, even then too, no one would in these Gulf states or in Washington too take serious objection if you said that, look, we do not believe that there should be a decapitation strike. It is much too dangerous. Don't do this. Second, and this is the point that I would like to bring in at this stage, I don't see any prospects of the Americans, the Israelis can't, but of the Americans really putting in boots on the ground. If they don't put in boots on the ground, there is no way in which the Vilayat-e-Faqih system will go. You can raise ethnic strife, they can fragment, but they will remain, and the Persian core will be under the greatest stress.
Right.
If that happens, then we get affected in the scenario that I painted.
Yeah, that's why. So if the scenario that you have painted,
I don't think they've thought through to this extent. They perhaps think, because they were not thinking at the time when they took this decision on the 28th, and I believe that there's been a change today, because still yesterday the signals emanating from Delhi were no condolence book is to be signed, nothing. And today you have the Foreign Secretary going and signing condolence.
a bit too late, I guess.
Well, so there, I think there has been a rethink. We've got to see how deep is this rethink. And then, of course, this point that you raised right at the beginning, which is that we have these arrangements and agreements with the US. Yeah. Where does that leave us? I would tend to think that those agreements relating to access relate to peacetime.
But he has not declared war on Iran.
No, but if there's a conflict, if there's a violence, you don't have to formally declare war for you to invoke for kind of saying that we will not go into conflict.
So you think
say
that
conflict.
we will stand and say, look, no, we will not allow you to
Well,
refuel
if
here.
you recollect Vajpayee ji,
Vajpayee was different.
Vajpayee ji's time, we said no. I mean, you know how he played the game, and he said we will not
You
allow,
can't
even
compare
though.
Vajpayee.
One other issue
They
which
can't
is,
compare
Vivek,
Vajpayee with
No, well, but I'm only saying that he did that when he came
but
under pressure. He said, "Man,
he
nahi
took
karunga."
the opposition into confidence.
Yeah, he
We
said,
had
"Man,
all
he
that
said,
happened.
no,
But if I could just make one
Yeah,
point,
please.
Vivek, which is that India has these two agreements. One is the, this logistics agreement, LIMOA,
Yes.
and the other is COMCASA.
COMCASA, correct.
So, the 2016 LIMOA and 2018 COMCASA. Under both agreements, India and the US share maritime and other sensitive data.
Correct.
And one question that has arisen is that did the Americans use the shared data to locate and sink the Iranian frigate?
Yes.
Because the government has to clarify whether shared intelligence had a role to play in the Americans locating and sinking that frigate, because it's not just an academic question, because in an armed conflict where the Americans have not declared war on Iran, but they are waging war on Iran, they are today pressuring India to fully activate LMOA so that American military assets in the Indian Ocean are able to refuel and use Indian maintenance facilities at Indian ports. Now, if you go down that route, I think the Indian government recognizes that. If you go down that route of providing access to vessels, to warships that are engaged in combat,
Be directly involved in the war.
yes, our neutrality will dissipate overnight, and I think the government is today caught between external pressures and internal pressures. The external pressures are coming primarily from the Americans that want full access under this agreement, and domestically the opposition is attacking the government for continuing with this agreement because India can suspend the agreement. That provision is there in international law. Even in that bilateral agreement, there is a provision that India can invoke.
Then there'll be 50% tariff. Then what?
Oh yes, well that's the other aspect about. But this is the opposition, attacking the government. But these two agreements have allowed India to deepen its strategic cooperation with the U.S. So they provide that infrastructure for the deepening cooperation. Yet I think the Iran war has created a strategic and diplomatic nightmare for India because of the not only because of the pressures, because of the dilemmas New Delhi faces now.
Right. Navtej, what's your view on this?
I think because it's not just these two agreements. We have signed all the foundational agreements. There are four foundational. And we have signed all of them. And one of the aspects has been that, deepened exercises with the United States, more what is called the interoperability, because if we are buying more of their defense and their technologies, they needed a certain commitment that these will be secure and not shared with somebody else. And this was a gradual building of trust, which included maritime domain awareness. And essentially, let's face it, it was basically for our interests against China in the Indo-Pacific.
Of course.
So now the situation is looking very different. We are not yet talking about China, although I think that is not a question which can go away. But this situation is different. And here, I think the dilemmas will come into play. And I think
We haven't thought this through.
I think the government will have to take a line on this, which I don't think is visible at the moment. We have to take a line as to what aspects do we want to become belligerent or be considered a belligerent along with the United States. My gut feeling about India is that we will balk at that. We will not want to get there.
Yeah.
So we will find ways and means of evading that. How much pressure we get from the United States and how we withstand it, and 50% or 60% or whatever, we're taking it. But yeah.
Yeah, Vivek.
Look, one of the agreements is maritime
Domain awareness,
etc. Suppose we had a conflict with Pakistan. Now, it wasn't a declared war,
Yes.
but it was nothing but war.
Yes.
So at that stage, if we had invoked it, would the Americans have played ball?
No.
So then, What is
No, but
sauce for the goose is
we
sauce
don't
for the
know.
gander.
We don't know if they shared things with us or not.
I
don't know.
have very much, I very much doubt that if they were out to mediate, quote unquote, or facilitate, I think is the right word. Mediate is wrong. I withdraw it. So facilitate, they would go down that path because no one. This is not hidden. It doesn't remain hidden. So I'm putting the reverse scenario. If we are involved in a conflict, will they play ball on everything? No.
No.
When they supplied arms to people and they were involved in conflict, I mean, you recall with the Pakistanis, they suspend all that.
Yeah.
So they suspend this. So we are well within our rights to say, sorry, conflict? No.
I hope we take that position. But what about the frigate that he mentioned and the
This
killing
has
of
been
some-
debated, and I know Brahma's written about it on social media today. I did read that.
How
And
do we justify it? I mean,
well,
they were guests here.
there are two again, there are people are saying two different things. Of course, you have some admirals, etc., who are saying that our responsibility finished once they left our waters. Legally, perhaps it finished. Morally, and as a host, and that responsibility on a humanitarian basis remains. Now, again, the question is, and again, I also speculate, our policy makers may be thinking, now, is this worth invoking Trump's anger? So, I want to finish this thought.
I understand.
So, is this worth it? Or why do we come in front of this? This is what must be going on. Again, I say this is a time to review your stand on a broader basis, given the way the United States and others are behaving, particularly the United States. Is there see, what has happened is all the normative statements, all the international law-based, all the rule-based order
All
stuff
over.
is all gone out of the window.
Right.
Now, do we want to bring that back? Or do we just want to go on narrow bilateral interests with each country? This is a fundamental decision of policy. And I don't know where we are going.
Look,
But it's also, Vivek, go ahead.
just one short point. While I'm saying all this, I'm also conscious of the fact that this is not the first time when an invading force immediately has killed the head of another state. It happened in 79.
Yes.
And we didn't say anything.
Yeah.
True.
Mrs. Gandhi was there.
Yeah,
She'd
she
just
didn't
come
raise-
in, if you recollect, she just won that election. She didn't say anything.
Right.
So our interests were involved. But here, it's a different thing. That was in 79, it was in Afghanistan, landlocked far. Here, if you give access to American assets, military assets, into your sort of ports, for instance, it will be public. And there will be a deep amount of upset, so it's different.
So it actually is something where
It'll
India
have
is
huge,
very,
it'll
very
have
firm.
huge domestic implications,
That's right.
also electoral implications.
Everything.
So
I think
therefore,
on that
there'll
point,
be a problem.
My gut feeling is on that point, India will come together.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but why can't you issue a statement that what you did to the Iranian frigate is unacceptable?
No, but see, India describes itself as a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Navy advertises itself as, quote unquote, guardian of the Indian Ocean.
Right.
With one torpedo strike, the US has punctured all these Indian narratives. It has left India looking really bad in its own region. And this is not the first time. This is not the first time. Trump has been doing it repeatedly. Each time the Modi government has employed military force, there were two occasions. One was the Balakot airstrike, then second was Operation Sindoor. Who announced the cessation of hostilities? Not India. Trump.
But
Trump in his first term, and Trump then more
we are
recently.
very considerate and diplomatic. We want others to do the things that we
Yes,
should be
that's
doing.
right. We are very,
we're generous in this
we are
regard.
we're the good boy.
Good boys,
But I think here, a guest frigate of a country is attacked very close to Indian waters, and we are caught by complete surprise. We don't want to enraged Donald Trump. Yet our interests demand that we stand our ground, that I'm not saying we make an issue in public. At least we should, for example, express serious concern over the fact that a guest vessel was torpedoed in India's maritime backyard, that express our resolve that international norms and international law should be upheld.
2014 onwards, we'll do none of that. We've done none of that. You don't expect any of that.
We've been, all said and done, we've been embarrassed.
Yes, deeply
It's
embarrassed.
a matter of embarrassment to the Navy, and that demands a certain comment.
No, I think while we think of all this, there are several other serious problems which I hope are being studied you have 9 to 10 million people.
Right.
And we are a country which evacuates people.
Right.
How? If already Indians are trying to leave the Middle East.
Right.
As you yourself said, our oil and energy, gas, LPG, LNG, everything, 40% of energy needs.
Qatar has said we're not producing any more LPG.
So we are going to have a problem in about 2 weeks. I believe Mangalore refinery has already issued something. The third thing is fertilizer.
Right.
Fertilizer, nobody is noticing, also comes out of Hormuz.
Yes.
And we are going to run into harvests and etc., and we're going to have a problem on all these issues. Fourth is where Vivek started, what the region is going to look after this is over, in whatever fashion it is over.
Right.
That whole bubble of the Gulf countries, of which we were very much a part, of becoming the new sort of piece of heaven on earth, AI and data centers and innovation and India Middle East corridor and a lot of pie in the sky.
They hit data centers. They hit data centers.
They hit data centers. Whether or not Iran survives in whatever fashion, that level of trust for that kind of investment is gone. Right. Particularly if you have a civil war and a strife-ridden, ethnically divided region. You think you're going to have all that people coming back and investment?
No way.
So we will need to go back to the drawing board on many issues. And particularly on our approach to West Asia, we'll have to rethink everything.
What about our standing in the global order and our standing in the South? I mean, we've lost that leadership. Even South Africa has commented. Brazil, of course, has been more, more forthcoming.
So at the moment, I think that is honestly not the biggest priority.
No, it's not a question of priority.
Yeah.
We are not a voice in the world that matters anymore.
Yet,
That's clear.
The paradox, Kapil, is that
and we are Vishguru.
While what you say is true, yet at the same time, India's international profile has continued to rise. There are at least 2 or 3 reasons.
That's because of 140 crore people.
Yeah, no, India is the world's fastest growing major economy. It's the world's 3rd largest defense spender. India's military modernization combined with India's growing economic weight does create a rising international
we
profile.
are buyers, not sellers.
Exactly,
That's
we
the
are.
problem.
No,
Its weight is because we need investment.
Yes. And also, there's several other aspects that need to be factored in. But I think I was just listening to Navtej about the 9.3 million estimated Indians in the Middle East, but the Hormuz problem that now we are facing, partly is, we created that because, since we have been gradually phasing down Russian oil imports and becoming more dependent on the Strait of Hormuz transport. Now, we didn't see the Hormuz problem coming, and certainly that wasn't the fault of the Indian government. But what we have done basically is to is to give up the discounts for higher priced crude oil purchases. But in the process, we have now created a situation where our economic growth and energy security are being held hostage. Now, if you look at LPG, this will 85% of India's LPG comes through the Strait of Hormuz. 85%, because there are no stocks of LPG in India, unlike of oil and
That's only
LNG.
25 days now.
Yes. So this will directly hit Indian households very quickly. But I think the very fact that all these surprises have caught us in the way they have goes to show that we don't plan in a manner.
Everything is ad hoc. Everything is ad hoc. We are Pakistan. You go to Pakistan, you want to say hi to somebody. You go to Israel, you don't know why you're going. Nobody knows. You don't consult anybody. And that's unilateralism in every sense of the word. But let me move on to something else. What's the attitude of China and Russia, and how is this going to play out with them? Because that's also a very serious issue.
Look, both of them have been critical of
But they've done nothing about it, I think.
As of now, there's no evidence that they have. I also doubt whether the Chinese will enter into the fray or the Russians. For one, I do not know, as far as Russia is concerned, if it has the material capacity to enter into. It has its own problems because of Ukraine. The Chinese can, but they'll have to move assets mainly through the Indian Ocean, and that will mean a direct confrontation. I don't think they want that.
So they just keep quiet and let Iran sort of...
I think
Get decimated.
that is a fact. They're seeing that Iran let's recall that Xi Jinping had visited Iran and had promised $20 billion of investments over a period of years.
3-4 years.
Yeah. But what does he do? Because geography is an enemy.
Also, Trump has played his Russia and China cards very well. For example, if there's one country that would like to repay the US in the same coin, is Russia, because the way the US began a proxy war against Russia through Ukraine, Russia could potentially, arm Iran and create a proxy war for the US. But Trump has played his Russia card and China card very well. He has managed to dangle the prospect of ending the Ukraine war, ending America's entanglement in the Ukraine war, and ending the conflict itself. And he's also planning to go to China very soon. So he has, with this softer approach both to Moscow and Beijing, he has ensured that...
But Brahma, you said it has long-term implications, not just for our part of the world, but the rest of the world. So it has implications also for China. Of course.
Yes, but it works to China's advantage. This is the thing. The more the Americans continue with these endless wars, the more they expend their military. Their munitions are in short supply. Their air defenses are running low. The more they expend such critical munitions, the greater opportunity they create for China to achieve its objectives in China.
In Saudi, with Brahma, Chinese are making huge investments in Saudi, in that part of the world even today.
No, but Kapil, if you look at the ultimate matrix in which global affairs will play out and are playing out, it's between the competition, the new world order, sort of, which is this between the United States and China.
That's right.
And in that sense, Iran is small potatoes.
No, of course, I don't doubt
it. It is impacting us. It will impact the region. It will have sort of. But if you
has
look at China,
and
if you look at the Americans and the the Western outpost in Israel, it doesn't impact them.
Yeah, but there are all sorts of fantastic explanations today for everything, and some of the Trump apologists are saying that this is actually aimed at China.
I see.
Yeah, because choking off.
I've taken control of the entire Venezuelan oil supply. I've I'll take control of all the oil supply and gas in Hormuz. And that's who gets squeezed the most?
Interesting.
China.
But China has this Russia option of importing more Russian oil and gas, which India doesn't have that land route.
That's true.
Well, that is true. But this is, as I said, all sorts of fantastic.
Okay, let's move away
explanations.
from there. Let's move on. What is the Muslim world, whether it's Sunni or Shia, going to do ultimately if this happens? I mean, I'll start with you, Vivek.
Look, the Islamic world at one level is agitated and hurt. If you take India, for example, while the Shias have been in the forefront of the agitation, but I think at one level even the Sunnis,
Sunnis
are not happy with what has happened. But then the cleavages in the Islamic world are so basic that there is no evidence as yet that they will be healed. And certainly the action that the Iranians have taken in bombing the Gulf states,
Right.
even though they say that we are bombing American assets or those who are with the Americans, I think that will not play well in the Sunni world. So the Islamic world will not be united on this, and I think that is one factor that the Americans are relying on.
But if the idea is to colonize the world by force, then slowly it will reach them also, depending on where, which country.
I
But
think-
the colonization also involves smash and grab and also controlling natural resources,
Yes.
primarily oil and gas. Now, for example, by abducting the sitting president, the US now has control of the world's largest proven oil reserves in Venezuela. Imagine if they have a pliant regime in Tehran. Iran sits on
Saudis
huge
are already
reserves
with
of,
them anyway.
of oil and gas. As it is, the US is already the world's largest LNG exporter, also the world's largest oil producer. Its oil production is greater than that of Saudi Arabia and Russia combined.
Right.
So, but now with Venezuela and Iran operations, if Iran operation succeeds, the US will have a chokehold on international supplies of oil and gas.
That's what.
But that's the whole objective.
Yeah, but one other thing on which there's very little talk, which is that this war, there are many wars that the Americans have fought, but there's been no war before where the US has reaped a strategic windfall from the word go. This war from the word go has proved a major financial boon for America's oil and LNG exporters. The LNG prices in Asia have doubled. In Europe, LNG prices are up 40 to 65%, depending on a specific country. There is no Hormuz bottleneck for US shipments.
But Russia has threatened that if you
But
continue.
prices are going up in the US.
Yes.
Yes,
Inflation.
domestic prices.
Yes,
domestic.
But while
And
the
which is why-
exporters are making a killing.
The only point I want to make to that is this is compared to the earlier wars, say Iraq, etc., 2003 and all, this war has got the lowest support within the US.
Yes,
Exactly.
no doubt about
So you had 90% behind George W. Bush.
Right.
You have a maximum of 30 to 35% by the latest polls.
That's true.
Behind Trump. And only 6 Americans have died so far.
That's right.
And so there is, he has no approval from the Congress.
Yes.
He has not bothered to go to the UN Security Council, unlike everything that was done in the previous occasions. I mean, the effort was made, huge effort. So I think we can't completely say that all Americans are sanguine and behind him on this.
No.
And that is going to be a factor which, as the midterms come closer, is going to begin to constrain the United States, at least theoretically. Because now they've said 8 weeks. Let's see.
Look, let me say this, that there are so many imponderables, Kapil, at
That's true.
at
That
this
is true.
time.
We just don't
that
know.
it is very difficult to chart out
Anything.
anything.
Especially when Trump is there, you don't know what
Trump
he's
is
going to do.
there,
next.
and then one factor that I mentioned, and I'll again repeat it. Let's not forget that Venezuela apart, where they picked up a fellow and they had picked up Maduro and there was a guy there.
Iran is a different cup of tea.
And they will not put in boots on the ground.
No.
Now, if they don't put in boots on the ground, Iran will be a different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
Iran has never been colonized, Vivek. In the history of Iran, never been
No, the
colonized.
IRGC is a very strong.
Strong, exactly.
You may
It's
disagree with
Yes,
it, but
yes.
you can't disagree with the
that's-
fact that they are layered, they are entrenched, they are spread around the country, they are decentralized,
Right.
and that's why you're seeing this kind of retaliation.
Yeah, they are there.
They are there.
So it's a very, not a very happy scenario, not a very happy situation to be in for us, for all of us, for India in particular. It's going to have huge implications. And I think the quicker, as you say, they go back to the drawing board and decide what to do next.
I think
that's
I
necessary.
think they will. Why? Because once the pieces fall, we'll have to see how to pick them up.
Yes, I know. And let's hope Modi ji listens. Thank you.
Thank you.